Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLicks1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. And another episode today, we're going to talk sports betting leaks. That's not locks. We're not talking about picks. We're talking about leaks. We'll explain what a leak is and how you may be hurting your bankroll by doing certain things, and that'll be the lesson today. And then more football. We got Week 12 in NCAA. We've got some good games to talk about. Week 11 in the NFL and the Eastern and Western Finals in the CFL Playoffs. So let's get down to it. And before we get to our lesson, let's do what we always do and start by updating our bankroll. Started the week with $498. And we had a bunch of picks here. We had the Wake Forest Virginia Tech over. I was worried Virginia Tech wasn't going to score enough. They scored 31, but Wake Forest was shut down, and that was a loser, minus $17. We had Kansas State plus 7, and that was an easy win for us, plus $17 to the bankroll. We had the Saints over 51, I believe, and they lost to the Falcons, which was considered the biggest upset of the season so far, but they only scored 9 points at home. So that was a loser, minus $17. And then we had the Steelers at home plus 4. I'm not a huge trend bettor, but the Steelers are very rarely home dogs, and that seemed like a really good opportunity there. And that was a winner, plus $16. And we had the 49ers minus 6 on Monday night, and that was a big seesaw game. They were up 10-0 with the ball, and it looked like they were going to go up 17-0, and it just – the game got away from them, and we still could have pushed in overtime. But that is a loss to the bankroll of $17. And then we had the Calgary Stampeders on Sunday, minus 6 at home to the Blue Bombers. They were up 14-8 at halftime, and they threw 3 picks in a row in the second half, and they lost outright. So that was minus $17. If you do the math, that's a minus $35 on the week, so that brings us down to $463. And dividing by 30, as we always do, to be a selective sports bettor, that makes our bet size $15 going forward. So a step backward this week. We're going to try to get some of that back. We'll get to our picks at the end of the show. But let's move on to the sportsbook lesson. And today we are talking about leaks. And what is a leak? And we're not talking about a leak at the White House, and we're not talking about a leaky boat or a leaky faucet. In gambling nomenclature or sports betting nomenclature, the way you lose money outside of your defined activity might be known as a leak, and it's siphoning off funds from your bankroll for your designated activity. Leaks can be directly related to your activity or perhaps quite unrelated. This means that you could be doing things within this show's about sports betting. So you could be doing things within sports betting that are causing your bankroll to leak, or you could be doing things that have nothing to do with sports betting that could be causing your bankroll to leak. And we'll talk about a few examples. Let's move right over to see what those are. Sports betting leaks. So an obvious sports betting leak is basically poor bankroll management. Why does this happen? So I have some examples here, and we'll talk about them. First one is wager frequency. I call this action addiction. You place too many wagers for your bankroll size because you have to have action on the game. There's a game you want to watch on TV, and you've got to have some action on it. So you go down to the sports book and place a wager, even if it's not a lot of money, but say you haven't researched it, or say it's a WNBA game and you're handicapping football and hockey. You don't really know anything about WNBA. That could be a leak. You need to, define, I have this many bets in my bankroll. I wager this bet size based on the number of bets per week or per month or whatever. So you kind of have to stay in those guidelines. Now, if you bet every day, you can adjust your bankroll every day, adjust your bet size. this show's on once a week, and we adjust it every week. And I only have Friday mornings here to give you picks and plays, and I have to do that. The other 6 days of the week, I'm also betting, but they're not included in this program. I can't just come on and say, "Oh, I did great last week." So, it's part of it's just being honest with yourself, but you need to recognize these things, and it's designed to keep you in the game and give your bankroll the best opportunity to grow. Wager size, of course, we just talked about adjusting your wager every period, your wager period, whatever that may be, and make sure you have enough bets, in your bankroll. If you're betting, 5 bets a day, 35 bets a week, you're probably going to want 100 bets in your bankroll. If you're betting 5 bets a week, 30 bets in your bankroll is fine. That's what I'm doing on the show. So it's up to you, but you need to have that money dedicated. It doesn't have to be in your pocket ready to spend. It doesn't have to be in a separate bank account. It just has to be a portion of your funds that are earmarked for this activity. Wager type. This could be a big leak for some people. I have in-game wagers, parlays, and futures. Now, I'm not a big fan of parlays. I've talked about in the past how I think parlays are a good, cheap form of entertainment. If you want to play a $5 parlay every week, a 10-team parlay for $5, you knock yourself out. That's the same to me as buying $5 worth of lotto tickets. You are unlikely to win. I actually think you have a better chance of winning a 10-team parlay than the lotto. But expect to have negative return on those wagers. And but if you're using your betting bankroll to pay for those parlays, you're hurting yourself from climbing that bankroll mountain. And even if it's only $5 a week, that'll add up to if your wagers are $30 a week on a regular single football game. It only takes 5 weeks, and that's an extra bet in your pocket. 5 or 6 parlays. So it can hurt your bankroll. It can hurt your goal of trying to increase your bet size and make more money over time. Then once again, nothing wrong with playing parlays. They're fun, cheap way to enjoy a weekend full of games. But it's usually not a bankroll builder. Parlays are really good for advanced players when they reach the limits of what the sportsbook allows them to bet. It's a way for them to get more money down on certain events. Future bets, those are bets to win a championship or win the conference or make the playoffs or whatever, win MVP. They can be bankroll killers. They can be leaks because that's money that, if you're a very good hockey bettor and you're putting your part of your bankroll on Connor McDavid to win the MVP, that's money that's tied up for 8 months that you could be using to grow your bankroll. Again, it could be a good wager. You could find tremendous value on a certain player to win MVP or a certain team to win the Stanley Cup or whatever championship. But you have to consider, are you going to put, just one unit? If your bet size is $25, are you going to put $25 on that future? Or are you going to be like, I'm going to put 100? Well, you just threw 4 of your wagers onto one bet, and that money's tied up for 8 months. So I tried to bet on Martin Truex to win a race, and I accidentally bet him to win the NASCAR championship, and that money is still tied up today. This weekend is the last race. So if he wins the championship, I will win a bet that I never intended to place in the first place. But my money has been tied up since June, I think 5 months, So it'd be interesting to see what happens. And then in-game wagering. Boy, this can be very dangerous. In-game wagering is placing bets while the game is going on. A good example is during a football game, if you're in the sports book, you can bet, is the next game going to be a run? Is the next play going to be a run? The next play going to be a pass? And you can bet these as the game goes on. You can bet the second half. You can bet who's going to have the next touchdown, who's going to have the next interception, who's going to kick the next field goal. These all kinds of crazy games. And the thing is, it's fun, and it can be you can really get into it. But before you know it, you've spent 10 or 15 bets tied up in the in-game wagering, and all of a sudden, if you're operating on a 30-bet bankroll and you walk into a sports book never expecting to play an in-game bet, and then you start playing in-game bets, all of a sudden you've bet way more money than you're supposed to for your bankroll size. And it can be a huge leak for people that want to just have a bunch of action going while they're there. And it's very dangerous. And make sure that you bring enough bankroll to play those types of wagers. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not a big in-game person. I don't like the way the sports books do their in-game products, and I feel like learning how to bet full games is the best way to learn sports betting for beginning bettors. So we have other common leaks, and I put down gambling, and I don't like to use that term a whole lot, but these activities I do consider gambling. I consider them a negative expected value events, which means that if you spend money on them, do not expect to earn any money on them. And that includes slot machines, lottery tickets, table games, playing blackjack or roulette. If the casino gives you free slot play, by all means, go ahead and play it. That's, a chance to win free money. I would not tell anybody not to do that. But putting your own money, going into the casino to place a sports bet and then dropping $60 in the slot machines is very counterintuitive to what you're trying to do if you're trying to grow bankroll. And obviously lottery tickets, again, I consider that to be an entertainment product. Do not expect to win money. I know it changes some people's lives, but your chances of I see people at my job, they sell lottery tickets there, and I see people that I work with just play lottery tickets all day and just throw their money into the trash can, literally, because they're throwing their used lottery tickets into the trash can. And I think to myself, at least if they bet the Monday Night Football game, their action would have lasted more than the time it took them to scratch off the ticket, and they would have had a somewhat decent chance of winning. A coin flipper against the point spread +6, -6, it's close to 50-50. It's somewhere between 45 and 55%. So you've got a better chance of winning. In table games, again, they all have negative expected value. You could win in the short term, but not a good strategy to build bankroll to do those activities, especially if you're using your sports betting money. And then touts, never pay for picks. I think I did an episode on touts and what is a tout and never pay for picks. And that's just adding a tax onto trying to grow your bankroll. This show is trying to help beginning sports bettors learn how to handicap and learn the pitfalls of sports betting. The Sportsbook wants you to come in and be as unknowledgeable as possible. Their goal is to bring the most uneducated people into their sportsbook to place wagers. And if they think you know what you're doing, they will be very, I don't want to say unfriendly. They're very friendly at the sportsbook, but if they think you know what you're doing, they will not want you betting large amounts of money. They will think you're taking advantage of maybe a bad line they put up, so touts are very rarely, anybody who is actually super successful at sports betting would never tout because they would not want to give any of their edges away. Most touts are very, very, very scammy. I don't know what a good word is for it. Just unethical people, and paying a fee to get a pick on top of playing the pick at -110 or whatever is a recipe for crushing your bankroll, and don't do that. So down here at the bottom I wrote, keep a healthy balance between bankroll and entertainment, and you should never run out of funds to wager at the sportsbook. And what I mean by this is, I have my method of bankroll management, and it's not the only method. It's not the only way. Other people will come up with other ways that work for them. But my method is, if you have a losing week, you adjust your bankroll downwards. I take what money I have left, I divide it by 30. That gives me 30 bets, and that's going to be my bet size. So if you keep losing, you're going to keep adjusting your bet downward, and that will keep you in the game. That will keep you wagering every week. And if you keep going down towards zero, then that's a problem. But there will be peaks and valleys, and if those of you that have followed this show for over 60 weeks now know that my bankroll has gone way up and way down, and maybe it'll start going back up again this week. We'll see. But interesting topic. There are new leaks coming. There are new ways to leak your bankroll coming out every day, it seems. And different people have different reasons. And just be aware of how that all works, and keep a tight management on your bankroll. And that's going to be our lesson today. I hope you found that helpful. And let's move on to all the great football we've got this week. And let's start with the NCAA. Now, I only picked 8 games this week. I tried to pick the games that have the most impact on the bowl scene. And obviously, if any of the top teams like Alabama or LSU or Ohio State lost, that would affect. But they have awful high point spreads. And as you know, I feel like my football model does not accurately represent high point spreads well. So let's start. Indiana, surprisingly 7-2 at Penn State, coming off their loss to Minnesota. Minus 14.5, 54. I have it at minus 15.95, 52.10, so it leans over. Weather could be a factor in that. 54 is really high for a Big Ten game. I don't really like this game at all. I feel like Penn State is probably going to roll. They're going to be very upset after their loss to Minnesota. Michigan State at Michigan. This game does not have a lot of impact, but it's a big rivalry game, so I put it up there. Minus 13.5, 44.5, the Khaki Crew in the Big House. Minus 13.3, 44.21. That's right on. I'm not going to touch that game. But this game, I really like. Navy at Notre Dame, minus 7.5, 54 is the total. Minus 7 and 49.97. Now, Navy does put up points. Notre Dame has a very good defense. I like the under in this game. My sister, who is a Notre Dame alum, told me that the game might not sell out, and it's the first time that would have happened in quite a long time at Notre Dame Stadium. I'm not sure why that's the case, but this is a traditional rival game, and I like the under here, and it should be competitive, I think. Georgia at Auburn. Auburn's just, boy, what a tough schedule they've had. Auburn plus 3 at home, 40.5, and then you have, I have Georgia's 1.52 point favorites, 43.96, so that leans over, and I think it should go over. That's pretty low total for an SEC game, and I don't expect there to be weather issues as well. Wake Forest at Clemson. Wake Forest was, really in a position to climb up into a BCS bowl game, and then they lost to Virginia Tech last week. Clemson at home, minus 34, 59 is the total. I have it at minus 31.41, 62.14. So it leans over, leans towards Wake Forest a little bit. Wake Forest can put up points, although they got shut down last week. So I could see this being kind of a backdoor cover, but I don't like playing spreads that big at all. Minnesota at Iowa, minus 3, 44.5. I have it as a coin flip game, minus 0.14, 42.03. So Minnesota plus 3, boy, that seems like a play. Iowa's not it's a tough place to play. But you have to like the momentum that the Gophers have in getting 3 here on the road. The total, it says it's going to go over. I don't know. I mean, this could be like a 20-20 game, 21-20 game. Oklahoma at Baylor, plus 11, 67.5, plus 6.98, 63.10. So that leans under and leans about 5 points to 4 or 5 points to Baylor. I like it. Baylor getting double digits. Boy, I feel like them losing by 14 at home is going to be a tough task for the Sooners. Big 12 has been very competitive this year, so Baylor plus 11 on my radar. And then two teams in the Sun Belt that are surprisingly good records. Appalachian State at Georgia State, plus 16.5, 61. I have App State as 14.79 favorites, 63.17. Again, leans over, leans to Georgia State there. But I expect Appalachian State to win that game. If you've got a late-night Jones for a college football bet, there you go. So that's the quick rundown for NCAA football, and let's move on to NFL Week 11. And we had a very interesting start last night with that Steelers-Browns game. They were throwing flags left and right, and then when the game got close, they just put their whistles away, and they didn't call any penalties for a while. And then the teams got out of hand at the end, and there was that helmet throw swing thing, and what a crazy day. Let's see what we got here. Texans at Ravens, minus 4.5, 51. I have them at minus 6.27, 49.26. So this leans under. You got to like the Ravens here, especially their kicking game. Both of these teams can score points, but they also have good defenses. So it's kind of tough. I think there's no over-under play here. Falcons at the Panthers, minus 4, 49.5, minus 5.23, 50.68. I think the Falcons are going to come crashing to earth after their big win last week, especially going on the road. Outside, they don't mind playing in a dome, but in Carolina, the spread my model leans towards taking the minus 4 there. Cowboys at Lions, big question mark because Matthew Stafford is uncertain. So no line at the Sportsbook. I have, if he plays, Cowboys at plus 5.39. Cowboys favored by plus 5.39, 49.87 total. The Jaguars at the Colts, minus 3, 43.5. Now, Nick Foles is back. I don't really think there's that much difference between Foles and Minshew as far as the model goes. If Brissett, this assumes Brissett will play, and the model has it minus 3.03, so it's almost exact. But the total, 38.34. Both teams have pretty good defenses. Jacksonville's is exceptional, I believe, so I like the under here. Bills at Dolphins. Dolphins getting 6.5 at home, 41. Now, the Dolphins have 2 wins. Or do they have 1 win? I can't remember. Plus, they have 2 wins. They beat the Colts. So, yeah, plus 6.5, 41. I have them at plus 5.57, 39. So this leans under and to the Bills. I'm still waiting for that complete Josh Allen game without any major gaffes. Bills could easily win this game by 3 scores, and they could easily lose it by 1. So I don't know what to say here. I think that's a pass for me. Broncos at Vikings. Vikings minus 10.5 at home. Boy, that's a lot of points. 40.5. They obviously played well last week. I have it at 10.67, 39.72. So it leans under. But boy, the Broncos are not as bad as people make them out to be. And they, I could argue they might actually be a little better with Flacco out of the lineup. As a intuitive better, a handicapper, the non-math handicapper, I kind of like the Broncos plus the points here, but I am not going to take that game. Saints at the Bucks. Bucks plus 5.5, 50. I have it at 5.01 and 51.8, so it leans over. Once again, Jameis Winston, the turnover machine, is going to determine whether that game goes over or under. So let's see what else we got in the NFL. We've got the Jets at the Potato Skins, minus 2.5, 38.5. This game opened up, I think, pick 'em or 1, and I thought the Skins were sneaky maybe to win this game. I have the total as 39.17, so I like the over here, but the spread's about the same. minus 2.11 there. So I'm probably going to stay away from that. But if I was going to make a play on that game, that'll be the over. Cardinals at 49ers. 49ers minus 10.5 at home, 44.5. I have it at minus 13.53, 45.39. They're going to be ready after losing to the Seahawks. And I feel the Cardinals are going to have a tough day. We'll see what happens. Bengals at Raiders. Raiders minus 11, 48.5. I have them at minus 10.94, 45.69. So that leans over. And, boy, that's a lot of points to take the Raiders. Derek Carr could have a bad game at any time. He's had a very good year. He's very underrated, I think, underappreciated. The Patriots at Eagles, marquee game of the week. Eagles 3.5 dogs, 45 is the total. Plus 3.45 is my model, so it's right on. 47.06, that leans over. Bears at Rams, minus 6.5 for the Rams. Boy, that seems like a lot to me. 40 points, that seems like not a lot of points to me. And minus 5.848 is the model, and 41.43 is the total, so that leans over. And it leans to take the Bears and the points. And I think if it gets to 7, I would take the Bears plus 7, just because their defense is going to keep them in games, no matter how bad Trubisky plays. And then on Monday night, we got the Chiefs and the Chargers in Mexico City. You got to remember that. Plus 4, 52.5. I have them at plus 2.00, 52.53, so it's right on. That's 2 points to the Chargers. I feel like if that gets to 4.5, or 5 or 6 even, that I would definitely take the Chargers. You have to remember that the Kansas City defense, boy, it's not very good. And interesting to see what the field is like. I don't know, but I don't have a lot of confidence in wagering on that game today. Maybe we'll know more on Monday. So before we get to our picks, I'm going to quickly talk about the CFL Playoffs. And if your NFL team is doing poorly on Sunday, you might want to tune in and watch these games. We have the Edmonton Eskimos, who won last week in Montreal, moving on to Hamilton to play the Tiger Cats. Minus 6, 50.5 is the total. And the Eskimos, I'm going to point out a stat that I find pretty amazing. Although Trevor Harris, who's the quarterback for the Eskimos, missed 5 games this season. They play 18 games in the regular season in the CFL. So he played about 13 games this year. He was only sacked 8 times all season. 8 times. That's a combination of their offensive line being very good and his quick release and his rapport with the receivers. And that, I'm not saying that that's going to win them the ball game, the Eskimos. I do like them to be competitive, but you have to remember that the Tiger Cats had a week off of rest, and they're playing at home to a sold-out stadium. Obviously, the Tiger Cats are favored by 6 here, but I do like the over quite a bit. First of all, if the game does get out of hand, the game will be extended. The losing team is going to try to come back no matter what. I think 50.5 points is easy over in this game. I like that a lot. If the Eskimos were getting over 7, like 7.5, I think they're going to be competitive. They have a shot at winning. It's not going to be. It's just that they're traveling for the second week in a row, but they're getting healthy at the right time. They have very good running back, very good wide receivers, and one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Blue Bombers at Rough Riders. That's the late game. Minus 3.5. It's opened at minus 3. So Cody Fajardo is the quarterback for the Rough Riders. He will probably be the most outstanding MVP of the CFL this year. And it's a Cinderella story for them. On the other side, you've got the Blue Bombers who are playing just tremendous football. Last week, they beat the Stampeders in Calgary. And they run a 2-quarterback system. And to beat them, and I was, screaming at my TV last week, of course, because I bet on the Stampeders. But you've got to make Zach Collaros run and you've got to make Chris Streveler throw the ball. Streveler's the short yardage running quarterback, and Claros is their pocket passer. And they did not play Streveler at, like a running quarterback, and they played, pass coverage, and they let him run all over them. And so you've got to make the quarterbacks do the opposite of what they're out there to do. And we'll see if the teams can figure that out this week. But I like the Rough Riders to win this game. I think it's going to be very close. I believe it'll be over 44, but this one I think is going to be a little tougher to get over than the other one. I think Hamilton and Edmonton are two of the best offenses in the league, and 50.5 is an easy over there. So with that in mind, let's get to the picks. And I only went with one college play this week, but there's a couple I really like. I like Minnesota too. Baylor plus 11, minus 110. A team of this caliber getting double digits at home is crazy, and my model likes that a lot. I've got the 49ers. I took them at minus 10 instead of minus 10.5. Minus 10.5 was like plus 105. So I'm taking them minus 10, minus 105. I feel like that they're going to be really angry after last week's loss. Looking for them to do very well. The Jaguars and the Colts, under 43.5, minus 106. I feel like the defenses are going to take this game over. Vinatieri's missed a lot of kicks. Don't forget that. Pats and Eagles, over 45 in the late afternoon game, minus 110. We'll see what happens. Maybe some defensive scores. I don't know. And then the Eskimos and the Tiger Cats, over 50.5 in the CFL. Looking forward to that one. It should be a fireworks show. I would be very surprised if it's not. It would have to be some really lousy weather for it not to be. And minus 108 for that. So that's going to do it for the program. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have another Sportsbook lesson for you next week. And until next time, enjoy the games. Keep on wagering and avoid those leaks. I'll see you next time, everybody. Take care, and I'll play the outro music for you. Have a good one.